Claressa Shields did not post a bouquet of roses this week. Claressa Shields posted a confession, and the wildest part of the whole thing is that she has absolutely no idea that she did it. That is the statement, and by the time we get to the end of this, that statement is not going to feel like an opinion anymore. It is going to feel like a receipt. Because Claressa Shields took a gift from Papoose'S, she took a handwritten note from him, and then she reached back into a catalog from years ago and pulled out a song that was never written for her, never recorded with her in mind, and never had one single thing to do with her. It was written for Remy Ma. It was written about Remy Ma. And Claressa Shields said it as the soundtrack anyway. So there it is. That is the whole thing, confirmed in the first 30 seconds, and now we are going to spend the rest of our time here taking it apart piece by piece, because the surface of this story is loud and the bottom of this story is so much louder. Before we take one more step into it, I hope every single one of you is having a good one. I really do. I hope your week is treating you right, I hope your people are good, and I hope the roof is holding. And if you have any interest at all in watching one of the strangest public flexes in recent memory get dismantled line by line, then tap that like button for me right now. Not later, right now. And here is the little test, because I like to know who is actually paying attention. If you genuinely believe there is nothing at all weird about playing a man's love song for his wife over the flowers he sent to you, then do not tap it. Leave it alone. And good. That means you are awake. Everybody else, hit it, because we are going to need the numbers on this one. The comments section is going to be a war zone and I would like us to be standing on solid ground when it starts. While you are in there, go ahead and subscribe too. Every one of you that clicks that button is another person in the room when these conversations happen, and these conversations are getting bigger every single week. Alright. That is the last soft thing I am going to say for a while. Because now we have to talk about the reason a story this small has turned into a story this big, and it is not Claressa Shields, and it is not even Papoose'S. It is the people who have decided that their entire personality is defending this. I am going to call them what they are for the rest of this video. The Rose Brigade. Every single time a receipt drops, every single time somebody points at something that does not add up, the Rose Brigade comes marching into the comments with the same 3 lines. Mind your business. They are happy. Let them live. And I want you to hold on to those 3 lines, because by the end of this, you are going to see exactly why the Rose Brigade needs you to say them, and exactly what they are covering for. Alright, back to the good part, because the actual details here are unbelievable, and I mean that in the most literal way possible. Let me walk you through what got posted, and then let me walk you through what it actually means, because those two things are very, very far apart. So the post itself is simple. Claressa Shields shares a video. In the video there are roses. Beautiful ones. There is a note attached to them. And Claressa Shields writes a caption that is short and sweet and reads like a thank you, something to the effect of thank you, Papoose'S, these roses are beautiful. Perfectly normal. Genuinely, if the story stopped right there, there would be no story. A woman got flowers, the woman said thank you, the internet moves on. The note is where the temperature starts to climb. Because the note is not a card that came with the arrangement. The note is a whole declaration. To the love of my life, from the love of your life. Thanks for being you. Love always, Papoose'S. That is a heavy sentence. That is not a thinking of you note. That is a mission statement. And he wrote it knowing full well it was going to end up in front of an audience, because everything about the presentation of that note tells you it was built to be photographed. But even that is not the story. Because I want to be fair here, and I am going to be fair here. A man sending flowers with an over-the-top note is one of the most ordinary things on this earth. Men have been doing it for centuries. That alone gets a shrug from me. The story is the sound. Because playing underneath that video, carrying the entire mood of that post, is a song called Invincible Black Love. And that song is by Papoose'S. And that song came out in 2021. Now sit with that year for a second. 2021, let that number breathe. Because that is not a new record. That is not a track he went into the booth and made about the woman holding those flowers. That is a song from a completely different chapter of his life, made when he was married and living with and building a whole public brand around Remy Ma. And the second I saw the title, something in my head went off. Invincible Black Love. Black Love. Because if you have followed this story for any length of time, you know exactly what black love means in the world of Papoose'S and Remy Ma. That is not a phrase. That is a franchise. We are going to get into that later, and I promise you the black love section of this video is going to be the part you send to your group chat, so stay with me. But first the lyrics. Because I did what anybody with a functioning curiosity would do. I went and pulled up the words. Not the vibe, not the memory of the song, the actual words. And I want to read them to you, because reading them is the entire argument. I do not have to add anything. The song does the work. It opens with the couple acknowledging that they have been through more trouble than most. That with a little love and understanding, they can climb any mountain. That as long as it is the two of them, there is nothing they cannot do. Even if the world starts falling. Everyone wants true love. As long as there is love and we are together, baby, listen to your heart. Right there. Stop. We had our share of trouble, maybe more than others. Who is that about? Who in this entire story has a publicly documented mountain of trouble that they climbed together? Remy Ma. That is a line about a woman who went to prison and came home to a man who waited. That is not a metaphor. That is a biography. And it keeps going, and it gets so much more specific. Ain't no industry relationship, faking, acting phony, corny, fronting and then you on to the next looking lonely. Read that one twice. Papoose'S, in his own words, on his own record, drew a line between real love and the kind of relationship that gets performed for an industry audience. He is the one who said it. Not me. And now that same record is scoring a post about a gift, on a page, for an audience. Then comes the inventory, and this is the part that broke my brain. Loyalty. Trust. Lust. Faithfulness. Dedication. Honesty. Modesty. Discipline. Celebration. 9 words. He stacked 9 virtues in a row like he was building a fortress. And then, immediately after, he says other couples try to be us, but they see us. Other couples try to be us. I want the Rose Brigade to hear that line one more time, slowly. Other couples try to be us. That is a bar Papoose'S wrote about him and Remy Ma being the template that other people imitate. And in 2026, that exact bar is playing under a video of somebody else holding his flowers. If a screenwriter handed that in, an editor would send it back for being too on the nose. He keeps going. He talks about a first anniversary, about outlasting the best of them, about how they have not passed the test of time. And then he says it. We a decade in. A decade. That is not a poetic flourish. That is a number, and that number belongs to Remy Ma. You cannot borrow a decade. You cannot stream somebody else's 10 years. Claressa Shields cannot play a song that says we a decade in and have it mean anything except that somebody else did the decade. And then the hook of the whole record. You cannot fake loyalty with royalty. All hail an invincible black love. All hail. He called it royalty. He crowned it. And whoever selected that audio for that post decided that crown looked good on somebody else's head. The second verse is where it gets uncomfortable in a completely different way, because the second verse is intimate. He talks about the food in the fridge and the bread in the cabinet. He talks about her reading in bed with a tablet. He talks about elegant fabric. He talks about a woman with melanin magic. He talks about what he would do to anybody who disrespected her, and he does not use polite language to say it. He says my soulmate. He says my ride or die. He says all gas, no brakes. Soulmate. That word is in the song. He used the word soulmate, and it was not about Claressa Shields. And it ends the way every great love song ends. Come hold my hand and say that you love me forever. Then I will give you all that I have. Our love will never end. Our love will never end. That is the audio. That is the sound that Claressa Shields chose to lay underneath a bouquet of roses in 2026. A song where Papoose'S promises another woman that their love will never end, used to celebrate a gift from that same man to a different woman, while he and that other woman are, as of this moment, still legally married. I need somebody to explain to me how anybody looked at that lineup and thought, yes, this is the flex. And check this, Because here is where the whole thing folds in on itself. Everybody has a history. That is not a scandal, that is just being alive past the age of 25. The older you get, the more likely it is that the person next to you loved somebody before they loved you. Sometimes deeply. Sometimes publicly. Sometimes with photographs and receipts and anniversaries that the internet remembers better than they do. That is normal. That is the cost of dating a whole adult. But there is a rule, and the rule is not written down anywhere because it never needed to be. When you start something new, you build something new. You get your own songs. You get your own inside jokes. You get your own anniversary. You get your own words. The past can exist without being the decor. Claressa Shields did the opposite. Claressa Shields did not build. Claressa Shields moved into a furnished apartment and started calling the furniture hers. And this is the question that nobody in the Rose Brigade has been able to answer for me. Not one of them. If Papoose'S is, as advertised, so deeply invested in this new chapter, where is the new song? The man is a rapper. Not a casual one. Papoose'S is a career, catalog, hundreds of verses, alphabet slaughtering, mixtape era, pen first rapper. He has music about everything. He has made songs about the news cycle. He has made songs about the calendar. He has an entire discography of specificity. So where is the record for Claressa Shields? Where is the 4-minute declaration with her name in it? Where is the song that plays and everybody instantly knows exactly who it is about, the way Invincible Black Love instantly tells you who it is about? It does not exist. And in the absence of a new one, somebody reached for an old one. That is not romance. That is a cover version. And that is why, for the rest of this video, I am going to call the whole strategy exactly what it looks like. Karaoke. Because karaoke is when you stand up and perform somebody else's song with real feeling and the crowd claps anyway, and everybody in the room knows the song is not yours. Karaoke Claressa. The performance is committed. The vocals are loud. The song belongs to somebody else. And I want to be extremely clear about something, because I know exactly how the Rose Brigade is going to try to spin this. This is not me saying Claressa Shields has not accomplished anything. Come on. Claressa Shields is one of the most decorated fighters this country has ever produced. 2 Olympic gold medals. Undisputed in multiple weight classes. She calls herself the GWOAT, and here is the thing that makes this whole situation so genuinely strange to me. She earned that name. Nobody handed Claressa Shields the GWOAT. She fought for every syllable of it. In the ring, Claressa Shields has never needed anybody else's material. Not once. Which makes it that much harder to understand why, outside the ring, she keeps reaching for it. Because if there is one person on this earth who should understand the difference between winning a title and wearing somebody else's belt, it is a champion. Claressa Shields knows what it costs to earn a name. She knows that a belt you did not fight for is a costume. So why does that principle stop working the second we step out of the arena? That is my first real question for the comments, and I want an actual answer, not a mind your business. If you have accomplished more than almost anyone in your sport, why would you ever want to be the second act in somebody else's love story? Now, there is a version of this where I am wrong, and I want to walk through it honestly, because I do not want anybody saying I did not consider it. The generous read goes like this. Claressa Shields did not overthink it. She liked the flowers, she liked the man, she scrolled through his catalog, she found a song with a warm title about love, and she attached it without ever reading the second verse. Innocent. Careless, maybe, but innocent. That is the strongest possible defense, and I am handing it to the Rose Brigade for free. Here is why I do not buy it. Because of the title. Not the lyrics, the title. Invincible Black Love. Black Love. Those 2 words are not neutral in this story. Those 2 words are the single most loaded phrase in the entire Papoose'S and Remy Ma archive, and anybody who has spent 5 minutes anywhere near this world knows it. That is not a coincidence you can stumble into. That is a landmine with a sign on it. And that brings us to the part 1 promised you, and I need you to stay locked in for this, because if you thought the song was bad, the Black Love section is where this whole thing goes from strange to genuinely unbelievable. Black Love was not a vibe. Black Love was not a hashtag. Black Love was a business. Go look it up right now and it is still there. Black Love by Papoose'S. A whole registered brand identity. A page. A logo. A product line. This was a venture, and it was very specifically his venture. He built it, he promoted it, and he put his name directly in the title of it. Black Love by Papoose'S. The possessive is right there in the name. And this was not a soft launch. He went all in. There was merchandise. There were shirts. There were hats. He was out in public in the face mask with the Black Love branding on it. There were sponsorship posts, people tagging the brand, shout-outs to Black Love by Papoose'S as a supporter of events. This was a full push. This was a man trying to turn a marriage into a product category. And here is the context that matters. This is happening in the peak love and hip-hop years. Remy Ma had come home. The show was enormous. The two of them were, without exaggeration, the most marketed couple in that entire television universe. The show sold them as the proof of concept. Every season leaned on it. And the money that came in from that visibility, from that platform, from that moment, went somewhere. And a whole lot of it looks like it went into Black Love. Remy Ma was in every frame of the rollout. Supporting. Smiling. Standing beside him at the promo appearances. Doing the morning show circuit. And I want you to notice something about the choreography of those appearances, because it tells you everything about whose project this actually was. Papoose'S talked. He explained the concept. He handled the pitch. Remy Ma sat there and supported. That is a very specific dynamic, and once you see it you cannot unsee it. Now let me tell you how it ended. It did not. It just stopped. Black Love by Papoose'S did not scale, it did not break out, it did not become the thing. It flattened. And when you factor in what a real product line costs, the manufacturing, the inventory, the packaging, the promotion, the appearances, it is entirely reasonable to look at that venture and wonder whether it did not just fail to make money but actively took money off the table. That is not me being cruel. That is just what happens when a product does not move. And the centerpiece of the whole operation, the item that I have never been able to forget, was the sneaker. The Black Love sneaker. If you have been around for a while, you remember. And if you do not remember, I need you to picture this, because the design decision at the center of it is one of the most fascinating marketing choices I have ever seen from anybody in this industry. The Black Love logo was on the sole. The bottom. The part of a shoe that faces the floor. And he explained the reasoning himself, and the reasoning is honestly kind of beautiful in theory. His pitch was that a man is supposed to cater to his queen, so when your feet are up, the Black Love will show. That is the concept. Put your feet up, relax, be taken care of, and the message reveals itself. I understand it. I even respect the sentiment behind it. But as a product, think about what that actually requires. Nobody is going to see it. That is the entire problem. A sneaker is a walking billboard. The whole reason people pay premium prices for footwear is because other people can see the footwear. He put the message in the one location on the entire shoe that is, by definition, hidden during normal use. To display a Black Love sneaker, you have to sit down, lift your leg, angle your foot toward a camera, and take a picture of the bottom of your shoe. You cannot walk in it. You have to pose in it. And I want to be careful here, because there is a counterargument and it is a decent one. Red bottoms exist. That is a legendary brand identity built entirely on the underside of a shoe. Absolutely true. But a red sole is a color. A color reads instantly, from a distance, in motion, in a photograph, in a crowd. Words do not. Words require you to stop, focus, and read. That is the difference between an icon and a paragraph, and Black Love chose the paragraph. So who made that call? I have thought about this for a long time and I keep landing in the same place. That was Papoose'S. That was his design, his instinct, his concept, and his creative control from the first sketch to the last shipment. And I am not guessing based on vibes. I am saying it because of the tape. And the tape is where this video changes gears completely, because there is a moment on camera that tells you more about that entire brand than any of the promotional material ever did. Because Papoose brought those sneakers to the Love and Hip Hop reunion stage. And if you know anything about how a reunion is staged, you know that nothing on that stage is accidental. The seating is decided. The camera positions are decided. The order of the segments is decided. Everything is engineered. And on that stage, Papoose and Remy Ma were not sitting beside each other. They were seated across from each other. Think about what that means practically. It means that when he held up his product, the camera capturing him also had a clean line to her face. Whether that was deliberate staging by production or a coincidence of the setup, the result is the same. When he made his pitch, Remy Ma's reaction was in frame. The moment plays out exactly as scripted. The host opens the floor. Pap is ready. He produces the sneaker. He delivers the line about it being called Black Love, geared to the lady. He runs the whole pitch. A man is supposed to cater to his queen, so when your feet are up, the black love will show. Clean delivery. Confident. He has said it 100 times. And then the camera finds Remy Ma. And there it is. The look. Now I want to be responsible here, because I am not a mind reader and neither is anybody in the comments. What I can tell you is what is visible. It is not enthusiasm. It is not the face of a business partner watching her investment get its national television moment. It is the face of a woman who has decided, in advance, that she is going to hold the line no matter what comes out of that man's mouth. It is composure doing heavy lifting. It is loyalty operating at full capacity. And honestly, that is the most impressive thing in this entire story. Because Remy Ma had every option available to her in that moment. She could have made a face. She could have made a joke. She could have distanced herself with one syllable and the entire internet would have run with it for a week. Instead, Remy Ma sat there and let her husband have his moment. She protected the pitch. She did not step on it. She held. That is the whole thing about Remy Ma that keeps getting lost in this conversation. Whatever anybody thinks about how their story ended, Remy Ma showed up. When the venture was his idea, she supported it. When the design was questionable, she supported it. When the product did not move, she never once, publicly, distanced herself from it. That is not a small thing. That is the actual definition of the word that he stacked 9 times in that song. Loyalty. And here is my second question for the comments, and I want you to be honest with yourself before you type it. Do you remember the Black Love sneakers? Genuinely. Did you see them at the time? Did you consider buying them? Did anybody in your circle actually own a pair? Because I think the answer is going to tell us something important, and I think it is going to be a lot quieter than the Rose Brigade wants it to be. Alright. Now let me bring all of this back together, because everything I have just laid out exists for one reason, and that reason is what makes the post so much worse than it looked at the start. Black Love was not just a feeling that Papoose and Remy Ma happened to have. It was a company. It was a logo. It was a product line. It was a page. It was a marketing campaign. It was merchandise. It was a television storyline. It was, for a period of years, the primary commercial identity of that marriage. Which means when a song called Invincible Black Love plays under a video of roses, we are not talking about a coincidence of vocabulary. We are talking about somebody putting on a uniform. That is not borrowing a mood. That is stepping into a brand that has a name on it, and the name is not hers. And once you see that, you cannot go back to the innocent reading. You just cannot. Because there is no universe where Claressa Shields, a person who exists on the internet, who is publicly connected to Papoose, who is aware of the discourse, who reads the comments like everybody else reads the comments, does not know what the phrase Black Love means in this specific story. That phrase is not obscure. That phrase is the headline of the entire previous chapter. So we are left with 2 possibilities and only 2. Possibility 1. It was accidental, in which case it is one of the most improbable accidents I have ever seen, and it would require Claressa Shields to have somehow avoided the single most documented fact about the man she is with. Possibility 2. It was intentional, and it was intentional because being connected to that history is the point. And I know which one I believe. I believe this is intentional. And I believe the intent is not really about Papoose at all. Because think about who this post is actually aimed at. Not at the man himself. He sent the flowers, he already knows how he feels. Not at the general public either, because the general public has no idea what Invincible Black Love is and had to go look it up, the same way I did. There is exactly one person on this planet for whom that audio choice carries a full, immediate, unmistakable meaning. Remy Ma. That song only lands as a message if the person receiving it knows the song was theirs. It is a signal fired at an audience of one. And that is why I keep coming back to the same conclusion. This is not about building something new with Papoose's. This is about standing where somebody else stood and making sure she can see you standing there. That is not love. That is a scoreboard. And that is the third thing I want in the comments, because I want to see how this splits. Is this a woman celebrating her relationship? Or is this a message with a very specific recipient? Pick one and defend it. Now let me get to the part that genuinely bothers me the most, and it is not the song, and it is not the flowers, and it is not even the timing. It is the reaction to the reaction. Because here is the pattern, and once you see the pattern you will notice it every single time. The post goes up. The post is public. The post is soundtracked, captioned, and framed for an audience. Thousands of people engage with it. And then, when somebody in an interview or somebody on a live asks a normal, obvious, entirely predictable question about the man in the post, suddenly the temperature changes. Suddenly it is invasive. Suddenly it is disrespectful. Suddenly people need to mind their business. You cannot do both. You cannot put the relationship on the stage, add music, add lighting, add a caption, and then get offended when somebody in the audience reviews the performance. That is not how any of this works. That is not how it has ever worked for anybody. And this is exactly where the Rose Brigade earns its name, because this is the maneuver they run every single time. They will tell you the relationship is beautiful and private in the same breath. They will tell you to mind your business about a video that was uploaded specifically so that you would not mind your business. That is not a defense. That is a contradiction wearing a defense costume. So let me talk directly to you for a second, Rose Brigade. Not about Claressa Shields, not about Papoose's. About you. I understand why you do it. You have picked a side and you want your side to win. That is human. But understand what you are actually defending. You are not defending a private couple. Private couples do not exist in your feed. You are defending a content strategy. Every post you rush to protect was designed, staged, and released to reach exactly you. You are not the shield. You are the target audience. And the moment the engagement stops being useful, the posts will change and you will change with them, and you will never once be told why. That is the thing about being on the applause section of somebody else's rollout. You clap on cue and you never get a credit. And I am going to leave that sentence right there. Because there is one more layer to this, and it is the layer that reframes everything I have said so far. Go back to that note one more time. To the love of my life, from the love of your life. Read the second half of that again. From the love of your life. Papoose's did not just tell Claressa Shields how he feels about her. He told Claressa Shields how she feels about him. He wrote her side of the sentence for her. He assigned the role and cast it in the same breath. And I want you to think about how unusual that construction actually is, because most people never notice it. A normal note says how the writer feels. This note issues a verdict on both parties and signs only one name at the bottom. Now line that up with the song. A song he did not write for her, that she is now performing as if she did. And then line that up with the brand. A brand he built with somebody else, that is now being worn as if it were new. Do you see the shape of it yet? Every single element of that post came from Papoose's. The flowers came from him. The words came from him. The verdict about how she feels came from him. The song came from him. Even the brand identity came from him. There is not one component of that entire presentation that originated with Claressa Shields. She did not post her relationship. She posted his catalog. And that is the revelation that I think everybody skipped past, because everybody got so distracted by the question of whether it was shady toward Remy Ma that nobody stopped to ask the more important question. What does Claressa Shields actually have here that is hers? Not the song. That is Remy Ma's. Not the phrase Black Love. That is a business he built with Remy Ma. Not the framing of the note, that was written for her. Not the decade, that belongs to somebody else entirely. Strip all of it out and tell me what is left. That is not a gotcha. That is a genuine, serious question, and I think it is the saddest part of this entire story. Because Claressa Shields is a person who has spent her whole life building things that could not be taken from her. Gold medals cannot be borrowed. Undisputed cannot be borrowed. You cannot karaoke a world title. Claressa Shields, of all people, knows that the only things that count are the ones you win yourself. And then she stepped into a room where everything was already furnished, and she posted a picture of the furniture. That is the whole thing. That is the entire video in one sentence, and every receipt we walked through points straight at it. And here is where the Rose Brigade is going to jump in, so let me get ahead of it. They are going to say, so what, it is a song, people play songs. Sure. People play songs. But people do not play the anthem of their partner's marriage over their own bouquet unless something else is going on. Songs are chosen. A caption is written. A post is scheduled. There are 4 separate decision points between having a feeling and publishing a video, and at every single one of those points, somebody could have picked literally any other track in the world. There are millions of them. Somebody picked that one. And they are going to say, why are you still bringing up Remy Ma, that is the past? And my answer is simple. I am not the one who brought Remy Ma into it. The song did. The brand did. The phrase did. Remy Ma is not in this story because commentators dragged her in. Remy Ma is in this story because the audio file has her fingerprints all over it. Every time somebody plays that record, they are the ones summoning her, not me. And they are going to say, Remy Ma and Papoose'S are done, move on. And listen, I hear that, and if that is true then I genuinely hope everybody involved finds whatever peace looks like for them. But you do not get to say the past is the past while using the past as your soundtrack. You do not get to close a chapter and keep reading from it out loud. Pick a position. That is my 4th question for you, and I really want the comments on this one, because I think it is the one that actually splits the room. If the past is truly over, why does every single artifact of this new relationship come from the old one? Now let me say the hardest thing in this whole video, and then we are going to bring it home. I do not think Claressa Shields is the villain of this story. I know that is not what the thumbnail promised. But I have watched this thing develop for a long time now, and I keep arriving at the same uncomfortable place. Claressa Shields is doing something that a lot of people do when they are attached to somebody with an enormous public history. She is trying to prove that this one counts. She is trying to prove that this version is the real version. And the tragedy is that the harder she tries to prove it, the more she reaches for the material from the previous chapter to prove it with, and every time she reaches, she demonstrates the exact opposite of what she is trying to say. The proof keeps undermining the claim. That is the trap. And the person who could end that trap tomorrow, with one afternoon in a studio, is Papoose'S. Because he is the only one who can make this stop. Pap is the one holding the pen. He has spent an entire career being celebrated for exactly one thing, and that thing is writing. Not features. Not radio. Not fashion. The pen. That is his whole reputation. He is the guy who made a name out of doing the work when nobody was watching. So if this relationship is what the note says it is, if Claressa Shields is genuinely the love of his life, then where is the verse? One song. That is all it would take. One record with her name in it, one set of bars about her life, her fights, her wins, her mornings, her actual specific self, and every single thing I have said in this video collapses. I would sit right here and say I was wrong, and I would mean it. But until that song exists, the loudest statement Papoose'S has ever made in this entire situation is a rerun. And a rerun is not a statement. A rerun is a rerun. Which is exactly why the Rerun King is the only title that fits. So let me close all of this out. Claressa Shields posted roses. The roses were real. The note was real. I have no doubt that whatever he feels it. That is not in question and it never was. What is in question is the sound. Because when a woman with 2 Olympic gold medals, a woman who calls herself the GWOAT and backed it up in the ring, when that woman needs somebody else's love song to explain her own relationship, the song is not the flex. The song is the tell. And every single person who watched that post and felt something strange in their chest, that feeling was not hate, and it was not jealousy, and it was not you being nosy. That feeling was you recognizing a cover version. Your ear knew before your brain did. The receipts don't lie. Now, with all of that laid out, I want to hear from you, and I mean actually hear from you, because this comments section is going to be one of the best we have had in a long time. Tell me where you land. Do you think this was a genuine mistake, a woman who liked a title and never read the second verse? Or do you think this was a message with a return address? Tell me if you remember those Black Love sneakers, because I need to know if a single one of you ever actually saw a pair in real life. Tell me whether Papoose'S Claressa Shields an original song, and tell me what you think it would change if he wrote one tomorrow. And tell me honestly, because this is the one I really want to know, if you were in Remy Ma's position and you saw your song playing under somebody else's flowers, would you say a single word, or would you let the internet handle it for you? And here is the one I am not going to answer today, because it deserves its own video and because I want to see what you think first. There is a second thing sitting in this timeline. Another post, another choice, another artifact that lines up with this pattern almost perfectly, and once you see it next to this one, the whole picture gets very difficult to argue with. I have been sitting on it. I know exactly what it is. And I am going to leave it right there, because if the response to this one is what I think it will be, we are going straight into it. If you rode with me all the way to this point, you are genuinely the reason this channel works, and I do not say that as a formality. Tap that like button before you leave, and subscribe if you have not yet, because the next chapter of this story is coming whether anybody is ready for it or not, and I would rather you hear it here than somewhere it gets watered down. And if you want to keep going right now, there is one waiting for you on that end screen. Go ahead and pick whichever one is calling you. I will see you in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.